Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something that's maybe more than just a trend. It's the minimalist lifestyle.
Right.
Our sources are painting it as almost an operating system upgrade for your life.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
They suggest it's a practical strategy, really, for reallocating your big three resources: time, money, energy.
Mm-hmm.
And a promise is huge. Told to transform how you live, live better, and save money doing it.
Exactly. And I think our mission here is to cut past the Instagram look of it all.
The perfect white rooms.
Yeah, and get to the simple, structured framework that our sources actually lay out.
Okay.
We're looking for the actionable steps. How do you turn this idea into a real way to manage your life's resources?
Okay, let's jump right in that. Because when you say minimalism, I think most people immediately picture that stark, maybe uncomfortable white room.
Yeah, the stereo.
Maybe one expensive piece of fruit on a table. It
Yeah.
feels, restrictive.
It does.
So based on the material, what's the actual core definition we should be working with? How is it different from just, getting rid of a bunch of stuff?
Okay, so the first big misconception to toss out is that it's about, aesthetic poverty or deprivation.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not. The sources define it more as a deliberate, values-driven choice. It's about focusing really intensely on what actually adds value, utility, joy, growth to your life,
Heck.
and then sort of aggressively removing everything else that doesn't. It's about being intentional.
So it's less about the number of things you own
Right.
and more about making sure every single thing you do keep is actively working for you, serving a purpose.
Precisely. And the key insight, I think, from the sources is understanding the real, often hidden cost of ownership.
Hidden cost.
Yeah, we see the price tag, obviously, but think about the resource cost.
Time and energy, you mean?
Exactly. Time, energy, focus. For instance, one source mentioned something fascinating. The average person apparently spends almost an hour a week just looking for things they own but have misplaced.
An hour a week. Wow.
Yeah. Think about that over a lifetime. That's like 73 working days lost.
That's staggering.
Yeah.
And it's not just lost time, is it? It's lost focus, lost energy, probably frustration, too.
Totally. So the basic trade-off becomes really clear, right?
Okay.
Every single thing you bring into your life, into your space, it demands a slice of your time, your money, and your energy to buy it, store it, maintain it.
Right.
And minimalism is basically saying, okay, let's consciously redirect those resources
Away from the stuff.
away from the stuff and towards things that deliver sort of higher value returns in life.
Which the sources identify as.
Well, they consistently point to 4 key areas: experiences, relationships, health, and personal growth.
Right. Okay. It's like a resource management strategy, but for your life, not just your finances.
Exactly. It's just disguised as decluttering.
Okay, let's tackle the money part first, because that's often the most tangible hook for people. This isn't just about pinching pennies, is it? The sources talk about a fundamental shift in financial priorities.
Absolutely.
They lay out, I think, 4 specific ways this lifestyle leads to pretty significant savings. Can you walk us through that blueprint?
Yeah, sure. And they all kind of connect. So point 1 is the most straightforward. You just buy less stuff.
Simple as that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Minimalists get really good at asking, do I really need this, before buying?
That pause.
That pause, exactly. They develop this habit of choosing only what's necessary, which just cuts out tons of impulse shopping, chasing trends, all that stuff.
Okay, so that stops the immediate cash outflow on things you don't need. Makes sense. But what about point 2? This one might feel counterintuitive for saving money. Quality over quantity.
Ah, yes.
Telling someone to buy a more expensive, high-quality item, doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose if you're trying to save?
That's a fair point, and the sources tackle it directly.
Okay.
The idea here is looking at long-term value versus short-term cost. Think enduring worth over disposable consumption.
So pay more now, but buy it once.
Exactly. The initial price might be higher, yeah. But the argument is it saves money over time because you stop that constant cycle of replacing cheap disposable goods.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Like, instead of buying a cheap $30 coffee maker every year and a half when it breaks,
Which they always do.
right, you invest, say, $80 in a really durable, well-made French press or pour-over setup that lasts for decades.
Ah, I see. So it's shifting from constant replacement costs to a one-time investment in something permanent?
Precisely. It's about getting off that hamster wheel of consumption.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, point 3 seems to hit on some really big potential savings, lower living costs.
Oh, yeah. This is where you see a major domino effect.
How so?
Well, when you seriously reduce the sheer volume of stuff in your life,
Your inventory.
your inventory, yeah, you drastically reduce your need for space to store it all.
Which means
No more need for off-site storage units, maybe a smaller wardrobe space needed. And crucially, you might realize you don't need such a big house or apartment just to warehouse things you barely use.
and if you can live comfortably in a smaller space, your rent or mortgage, that could be a massive saving. Probably the biggest single financial shift someone could make.
It often is. And then the final point, point 4, is really interesting because it connects finances to our mental state. Reduced stress spending.
How does that work?
The idea is that less physical clutter often leads to less mental clutter, less anxiety.
Okay.
And when you're less stressed, you're less likely to engage in that kind of emotional retail therapy shopping.
I had a bad day. I deserve this new gadget purchase.
Yeah, exactly. Those little bursts that give temporary relief but often lead to buyer's remorse and more clutter. So less clutter, less stress, fewer stress buys. It's like a defensive strategy for your wallet against your own moods.
So putting it all together, the money that used to leak out on impulse buys, replacing cheap stuff, storing excess things,
Right.
and stress shopping, it now stays in your account. And it's available to be intentionally directed towards those higher value things like experiences, travel, learning new skills.
Precisely. It's a complete reallocation. And, once those financial pressures ease up and the resources start flowing differently, that's when the really profound stuff starts to happen, the internal shift.
Yeah, because the money is maybe the initial draw, but the sources really emphasize the improved quality of life as the long-term payoff.
That's the lasting dividend. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's explore that. Beyond the wallet, what are these non-financial benefits? The sources talk about more freedom, better focus, even helping the planet. How does this actually feel day to day?
Well, the first big one is a tangible sense of more freedom, personal freedom.
So,
By not being anchored down by just mountains of possessions, furniture you have to move, cars you have to maintain, storage lockers full of who knows what.
right.
Your life just becomes more portable, more flexible. Your choices aren't constantly dictated by the logistics of managing all your stuff.
You're not just working to pay for the storage of things you don't use.
Exactly. You gain the freedom to potentially move or change careers or travel more easily without this huge physical baggage weighing you down.
That idea of your stuff's maintenance dictating your life choices, that's powerful. And I guess that freedom translates mentally too.
It does, absolutely. That leads straight into the second major benefit, less stress.
Makes sense.
The sources are pretty clear. A tidier, less cluttered external space tends to create a calmer internal space. It reduces that background hum of anxiety that comes from constantly being surrounded by, disorganized stuff, unfinished projects.
Visual noise.
Visual noise is a great term for it. Think about the mental bandwidth that frees up when your brain isn't constantly scanning for chaos or feeling overwhelmed by your surroundings.
Okay, so if you're less stressed and have more mental bandwidth, where does that energy go? That leads to focus.
That's the third benefit,
Yeah.
better focus. The sources really emphasize this. When you remove distractions, both physical and mental, your ability to concentrate just goes way up. Simplifying your environment often leads to simplifying your commitments too.
So you can actually concentrate on what matters.
Exactly. You can pour that reclaimed energy into meaningful goals. Could be learning something new, starting a business, deepening relationships. You're pursuing purpose, not just managing possessions.
Purpose, not packaging. I like that.
Yeah.
And there was a fourth benefit too, one that looks outward.
Yes, sustainability. This is the bigger picture implication.
How does minimalism connect to the environment?
Well, it's pretty direct. By choosing to consume less overall, opting for fewer but higher quality, longer lasting items, and avoiding that constant churn of cheap, disposable goods, you inherently reduce waste.
Less landfill fodder.
Right. You lower the demand that drives mass production of low quality stuff, and you lessen your personal environmental footprint. It connects your individual choices to a larger sense of responsibility.
What really strikes me is how the source material presents this. It doesn't sound like some rigid, punishing set of rules dictated by a guru.
No, not at all.
It sounds flexible, like something you tailor yourself.
That flexibility is absolutely crucial. That's the key to making it stick. The sources insist, you don't need to follow someone else's strict rules.
So no magic number of items you're allowed to own.
Definitely not. Your version of minimalism has to be defined by your values, your life, your sense of utility.
Okay.
If you genuinely love books and get immense value from having 1,000 of them, then for you, those books aren't clutter, they're assets.
They serve a purpose.
They serve your purpose. Minimalism just asks that you're intentional and conscious about that choice, that you've actually chosen it, rather than just accumulated it mindlessly.
Okay, so for someone listening who's maybe feeling inspired by this idea of redirecting their time and money, but feels, a bit overwhelmed at the thought of a massive life purge,
Yeah, it can seem daunting.
what are the practical first steps? How do you actually start doing this without getting paralyzed?
Start small. Really small. That's the consistent advice. Focus on micro actions to build momentum.
Like what?
Like, don't try to declutter your entire house this weekend. Just declutter one drawer.
One drawer. Okay, that feels doable.
Totally doable. Or commit to skipping one unnecessary purchase this week. Just one thing you were going to buy, but pause and decide against.
Micro decision.
Exactly. Or maybe trade 5 minutes of aimless phone scrolling for 5 minutes dedicated to a meaningful habit you want to build. Tiny shifts.
It lowers that barrier to entry right down, doesn't it? Makes it feel achievable instead of overwhelming.
And that's the power of it, according to the sources.
Wow.
By focusing on these small, manageable wins and just applying that lens of intentionality to these micro decisions,
Uh-huh.
you create this cumulative effect. It builds over time. These little actions compound, and they lead towards that bigger promised outcome. Saving money, less stress, and ultimately, a better life that's actually aligned with what you value.
This has been really clarifying. It seems the core idea, the big finding here, is that minimalism isn't really about deprivation at all. It's a practical, flexible system for shifting your most valuable resources, time, money, energy, away from just managing stuff
Right.
and directing them towards things that genuinely enrich your life and promote personal growth.
Well put. It's resource reallocation, plain and simple.
Okay, so as we wrap up, let's circle back to those 4 high-value areas. The sources say minimalism helps you invest in experiences, relationships, health, and personal growth.
Yeah, the core 4.
If someone listening is realizing, wow, a lot of my time, money, and energy is currently tied up in just acquiring, storing, maintaining possessions, we could probably leave them with a final thought based on that.
Okay. Well, perhaps the provocative question to ask yourself, based on the sources, is this. If your finite resources are being poured into the demands of your stuff, which one of those 4 essential areas, experiences, relationships, health, or personal growth, are you currently starving as a result? That might be the true cost of clutter.